All right. All right, so I invite you to find a comfortable seat of your choice just for the moment. And settle yourself in with a lot of compassion for yourself on this Friday afternoon. You might sort of nestle and rock yourself into your seat. Maybe really give yourself the gift of being lifted up on something. I'm actually sitting on my zafu, my meditation cushion. Just give some softness. And then invite your spine to rise up very naturally from that supported seat. Maybe sense from the inside out how you might need to adjust your shoulders forward or your whole torso forward or back to find an alignment of the shoulders above the hips. And then notice if it might be helpful to give your chin a tiny bit of a tuck so that you can draw the ears back and align the ears above the shoulders and the shoulders above the hips. And if you notice at all that you're losing sort of that ease and length in the spine, give yourself even more of a lift under your seat. And if you notice that your knees are higher than the tops of your hips, give them a support, give them a block to lean on. You could angle it like this under the knee, or a blanket or whatever you have. And then find a deliberate placement for your hands. Maybe be thoughtful about whether you turn the palms down or up, depending on whether you're looking for inspiration or making an offering, or whether you're hoping more for introspection. Of course, you always have the choice to bring your hands to your heart as well, or anywhere else that feels right in this moment. And then make a deliberate choice about how you would like to place your eyes, or rather your eyelids. Perhaps they want to close, perhaps you just lower your gaze to a sweet spot in front of you. As you gently begin to draw yourself inward. Meet yourself in this moment. Your body, your breath, your mind, your emotions. And then let's take 3 rounds of breath. Not synchronized, but knowing that we're all taking 3 rounds of breath. And at the end of those 3 rounds, maybe signal that you're done by bringing your hands to your heart in some way. And so whenever you're ready, you've released an exhalation, start with your first inhalation and go from there, sharing energy, sharing vibration with this Sangha across the ether. And as you come into this group with your hands at your heart, I invite you to bow your head to your own heart center. Tune into your precious connection to this community as you set an intention for your time this evening, but perhaps for the entire weekend. Knowing in your heart that you can always let this intention evolve and change and grow. If something emerged for you, however subtle or nonverbal, that feels auspicious, you might choose to breathe that intention into your heart with your next inhalation, and to send it out into this community and perhaps your greater web of life with your exhalation. And then I invite you to release your hands, open your eyes if they were closed, and lift your gaze if it was lowered. And welcome everybody into this moment, into this new opportunity for Atta Yoga Anushasanam, right? Now the time for the teachings of yoga, our precious first sutra. And from here, I invite you into a very deliberate now sweet seat or easy seat, which tends to be often for people neither sweet nor easy, but it is called Sukhasana, and Sukhasana means a seat of ease or a seat of sweetness. And in Sukhasana, the legs are turned outward so that you're in abduction of the hip joint. And then the feet draw in, and you'll have a natural fold. You'll notice right away whether you'll want to bring the left foot in first or the right foot in first. And so just go with your natural inclination. And once you've arrived here, and we sort of did this with the opening already, notice how you're aligned when you just sort of naturally move into this seat. And if you notice that you're kind of struggling to keep your spine in a natural curve, take a blanket or a pillow, or if you have it, a zafu or a wedge, and lift your hips up and bring that underneath your seat. And just notice if this brings more ease and lift into your spine. And once you've sort of adjusted the height of your hips, take a look at your knees. And if they're higher than the tops of your hips, so they can be up a little bit, but it's only if they're like way up here, right? That you need to give them a prop of some sort. And so a block at an angle works really nicely. Maybe a whole big block is too much, but you have maybe a skinnier block that you could use, or you could use a blanket. But if your legs open naturally and the knees come all the way to the ground, you might not need a prop under the knees. And so from here, I invite you to bring your hands to your knees. And the caveat is always in all of these seats to make sure that your knees feel comfortable. If you're not sure whether they are comfortable, straighten the leg, bring the foot in, and then turn the knee out. That will protect your knee. It's a really nice way, rather than starting, with the hip opening and then forcing the knee in. Whenever you bring the leg in and stabilize the knee joint and then move from the hip, you're going to get a nice protection for your knee joint. And sometimes it really changes your seat. Sometimes you realize, oh, I do need a lift under my knees. So stay mindful of your knee joints as we move into some kriyas here. So we're not really in a seated practice right now. We're in an opening practice, but I figure I might as well take the opportunity to talk about seats a little bit. So then I invite you to bring your hands to the knees if that's the right spot for them. Start with that and see how it feels in your body, and then you can always adjust them back or even forward. And we're going to start with some clockwise circles here. It's almost like a moving cat-cow, but not coordinated with the breath in the same way that we would coordinate in a in a tabletop. You let your breath move freely here. But as you come forward, you're kind of getting that sense of a cow shape where you're bringing a little bit of that natural spine back. And as you move backwards, you can kind of curl yourself into like a flexed back. You could even lift and lower the head a little bit as you move here. And just notice how pliable you might be or not be this evening. What has happened during your day today or across the past week or even a lifetime might really affect how this little flow is unfolding for you. If you would like, you could work with your eyes closed here so that you really can sense into yourself as you sort of stir your pot here to come back to that concept. And you can let this be as expressive or as subtle as you would like. We'll go about 2 or 3 more times in a clockwise direction. And then the next time you're forward, pause for a moment. And then when it feels right, circle the other way. Let yourself really feel the difference in directions here. We can have utterly different hip joints on our 2 sides. We can have very different knees, very different shoulders. And so just notice how this flow feels different on this side in your original seat. Feel free to be as subtle with the movement or as expressive as you would like to be this evening. 2 or 3 more times. The next time you're forward, come to rest. Use your hands to press yourself up and switch the cross of your legs. However you want to do it. If you want to be really mindful of your knee joint, you might switch and then lay the foot down. You might switch and then lay the foot down. Now, second side, second story. Don't assume that the props that worked on the first side will work on the second side. So be just as mindful the second time around in terms of, okay, how high do I need to lift my hips? Where are my knees in space? What do they need in terms of support? Do I have ease in the spine? Never moving into the second side with sort of a set of expectations of how it should be, but with curiosity and a beginner's mind. And then we'll take exactly the same Kriya again. This time completely silently. I'll just prompt you when it's time to end. We'll start and to switch sides. So we'll start clockwise again. And just notice with curiosity how this may be different with your opposite cross. Next time you come forward, take a moment And then let the breath guide you into reversing the circles. And one more circle. And then as you rise up, come to stillness. Maybe bring your hands to your heart if that feels auspicious. And draw your attention inward. Sensing into your energy, your vitality, tuning into your breathing. Maybe even feel your heartbeat under your hands. And just notice your nervous system response to this Kriya. That was about 4 minutes, maybe 5. And so we might have stirred up a lot of stuff. Just notice. With your next exhalation, if your hands were lifted, lower them down. And we'll take a little side to side flow. So I invite you to begin by inhaling your arms up. And then as you exhale, draw the right hand toward the ground. Maybe support yourself, press into that right hand to ground the left hip. As you exhale, inhale yourself up, and then same thing on the other side. Ground the left hand into the ground so that the right sits bone, the right top of the femur can ground. And switch side to side, inhaling up, exhaling down with your own breathing here. But really finding that engagement of the hand in the direction of the twist so that you press into that hand to feel the rebound from the earth up through the arm, into your shoulder, and all the way down into the opposite hip. If it feels safe, you might choose to close your eyes as you flow with your breath from the inside out. The movement may slow down significantly as your breath calms. And so can you be patient here? The next time you have twisted, or rather side bent to the left, when you rise back up, stay at center. And switch the cross of your legs. However you would like to do it, staying very mindful of your knee joint. Readjusting your props assembling yourself with patience, finding the lift through the spine, maybe tucking the chin, drawing the ears back, shoulders above hips, ears above shoulders. And then inhale your arms back up. And this time we'll twist. As you exhale, come to the right. Inhale forward. Exhale to the left. We're in no hurry this evening. Your body, your mind, your breath have been challenged all week with all kinds of activities. And so let this flow happen not as an action, as a movement, but really more as an expression of gratitude that you're able to move your body, that you're able to pulse with your breath, and that you can use such patient action to invite your mind to come into the present moment, to invite your emotions to stabilize, to suspend judgment, and to find loving kindness and compassion for yourself. The next time you have twisted to your left, let that be your last twist. And we will meet at the center. Perhaps drawing your hands to your heart to take a moment to tune in. Release your hands, release the prop under your seat. Have a block handy in case you want it. And if you have a blanket, bring it to Tadasana of the blanket, which is the quarter fold. Lay it out so that it's kind of overlapping past the edge of the bottom of your mat. And then take the blanket and just roll it up a tiny bit. You can see this sort of on my mat here. And this is just an invitation. We're coming into rocks pose to begin with. In rocks pose, we actually sit on our heels. And for some people, getting the front of the ankle onto the ground is almost impossible. So what you can do here is you can wrap the foot over the blanket roll. And you can make that roll as small or as big as you would like it for your ankles. And then bring your feet on there. Your knees are now on the blanket, so you're nicely padded. And so it's a nice way to support yourself in rocks pose. I hope you can see this okay on the screen. And I think even today, give yourself sort of the pleasure of trying this out on behalf of your future students, even if you can normally bring the tops of the ankles to the ground. And then let yourself come to a seat. If this is really uncomfortable for you, you can always take a blanket and bring it into the knee joint. In fact, you can tuck it all the way into the knee joint so that you really feel it, and then sit back on that blanket. That'll distribute your weight a little bit. It also kind of opens the knee joint a little bit. It's very therapeutic for the knee, so it's actually really nice for people who have knee injuries when they're seated in rocks pose. And then from here, I invite you to inhale your arms up and exhale them down through the heart. This is called sun breath. And you'll move with your own breath here. And once again, you can decide how subtle or how exuberant you would like to make this. So you could, if you wanted to make this very big, you could open the heart wide as you inhale and then fold yourself forward as you exhale, sweeping the hands around. Or you could be very subtle and barely move anything other than your breath and your arms. And so just tune in and see what you would like this evening. You've tuned into your body, you've tuned into your breath. Maybe now would be a nice time to tune into your mind, to really notice what you're bringing with you in terms of expectations and thoughts. Little opinions. As you move here in your version of sun breath. And maybe your version changes across time. And the next time you bring the arms overhead, linger here for a breath. Let your shoulder blades settle onto your back. Let your shoulders relax. Feel the weight of your arms. And then bring the palms together. Draw the hands through to your heart. And you can either stay in rocks pose as you are, or you can make a shift now to hero's pose. In hero's pose, we actually separate the feet from one another. And so you'll probably naturally feel that your femurs will internally rotate just a tiny bit. If you have the blanket roll, you can absolutely keep it, or if you don't like it, you can take it away. If you have the blanket roll, maybe you can actually find a seat between your feet on the blanket roll. That might have been enough lift. If it wasn't enough lift, you can take the block, you can bring it to the top of the blanket roll, and you can sit on the block. And if that's not enough, you can take a blanket and you can put the blanket on top of the block. And if that's not enough, you can take another block, right? You can bring yourself as high as possible here with your feet out to the side, your hips lifted. Wow, this feels super comfy. I think I'm just gonna stay really high. And then notice if your knees separated while your hips were adjusting. And invite the knees to come together if that feels auspicious for your knees. And then from here, draw the arms up with an inhalation, and with an exhalation, blow the breath out. Very different breathing now. So inhale. You don't have to be as loud as I am. I'm exaggerating for your benefit. But you inhale up and you exhale down. It's a very sort of inviting, forceful breath. Two to four more. And when you feel ready, you can bring the hands to the heart and come back to the story in your mind, whatever it might be. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. And maybe notice if there's a shift in energy or vitality that's showing up for you. And then gently release your hands and bring your arms up and overhead. Yet again, interlace your fingers and then press through the palms and just let yourself be really tall here. You could almost feel like you're walking the rib cage away from your hips. In fact, sometimes I come around and I place my hands on my students' rib cage and I just prompt them, and you can do this for yourself, just prompt that rib cage to lift away from the hips to just find so much spaciousness in your torso here. And take a few rounds of breath. If there's movement that wants to emerge here, like little twists or side bends, by all means, let them. If you just want to stretch up and feel the fullness of your heart, then that's okay too. With your next exhalation, bow all the way forward to the earth with gratitude for this moment. Take a breath or two or three. Rise up in whatever way you would like. Interlace the fingers again, but with the other pinky finger on the outside. If you don't know what that means, put your hands together just intuitively and then do the opposite, because you probably did it just your habitual way the first time. And once again, bring the arms up and overhead. Breathe yourself long. If you would like, this time you could add a tiny bit of a heart opening here, almost a bit of a back bend to bring lightness into this seat. You could even press through the tops of the feet so that your hips are almost not making contact with your support anymore. But let your shoulders descend down the back so there's ease in the shoulders at the same time that there's an effort to move your heart up, to bring your hips up, to feel that lift toward the sky. And then release the hands, bow forward with gratitude for this moment. Take a breath if that's comfortable for you, but you can always come to a seat if this is too much. Bring yourself upright. You can stay where you are. I just want to face you. Or you can shift if you would like to. And then bring your hands to your heart. So if you're still lowered, go ahead and lift up. And bow your head to your own heart. And meet yourself yet again. This is a new moment. It's a new meeting. Have no preconceived notions as you recheck in with your body, your vitality, your mind, your emotions. Perhaps you take a moment to reconnect to your intention. Revising it if necessary, re-engaging with it if desirable, or just letting it be. And release your hands and lift your gaze. And thank you so much for practicing